The Invisible Duchess, When the Forgotten Daughter Conquered the Crown. In a world where beauty is currency and worth is measured in marriage proposals, one woman was deemed worthless, until the most powerful duke in the realm saw what no one else did. This is the story of Eliza Harrow, the daughter no one wanted, who became the woman everyone feared. Stay until the end to see how she turned rejection into revolution, and don't forget to hit that like button and comment which city you're watching from. The Harrow drawing room smelled of expensive perfume and desperation. Eliza stood in the corner, her corner, the one she'd claimed through 3 seasons of careful invisibility, and watched her mother orchestrate another performance. Lady Harrow moved like a general on a battlefield, adjusting Cecilia's curls here, straightening Beatrice's posture there, her sharp eyes cataloging every detail that might catch a wealthy man's attention. "Stand straighter, Beatrice. You look like a merchant's daughter." "Mother, this corset is, beauty requires sacrifice. Now smile. Not like that, you look consumptive, like you have a secret. Men love secrets." Eliza's fingers tightened around her book. She'd learned early that stillness was armor, that if she made herself small enough, quiet enough, she could observe without being observed. It was a skill she'd perfected over 18 years of being the mistake, the plain one, the daughter who'd somehow failed to inherit any of the golden beauty that made her sisters marketable. "Eliza," her mother's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Yes, mother?" "Move. You're lurking in the shadows like a servant. Go upstairs. The modiste will be here any moment, and I won't have her wasting fabric on you when your sisters need proper gowns." Cecilia giggled behind her fan. Beatrice at least had the grace to look away. "Of course, mother." Eliza closed her book and moved toward the door. She'd taken perhaps 3 steps when her mother's voice stopped her again. "And Eliza, do try to stay out of sight at the Pemberton ball. Last season, you managed to position yourself directly in Lord Ashworth's line of vision. He told Lady Pemberton you looked like a startled rabbit. It took me weeks to repair the damage to your sister's prospects." Heat crawled up Eliza's neck, but she kept her voice steady. "I'll do my best to remain invisible, Mother. See that you do." The hallway was cooler, quieter. Eliza pressed her back against the papered wall and took a slow breath. 3 years of this. 3 years of balls where she stood behind pillars, of dinners where she was seated at the far end of the table, of conversations that died when she approached. 3 years of watching her sisters collect proposals like trinkets while she collected rejection like scars. She wasn't bitter. That's what she told herself anyway. Bitterness required energy, and Eliza had learned to conserve hers for survival. The library was empty when she reached it, her father's domain, though he spent most of his time at his club avoiding the chaos of marriage season. The shelves rose floor to ceiling, packed with volumes he'd inherited but never read. Eliza had read most of them, some twice. She was deep into a treatise on agricultural reform when Margaret found her. "There you are." Her lady's maid, though calling Margaret that felt wrong since they'd grown up together, collapsed into the chair opposite. "Your mother is in rare form today. She sent 3 girls away crying because their needlework wasn't perfect enough for Cecilia's trousseau." "Cecilia's engaged then?" "As good as. Lord Pemberton's eldest. He'll propose at the ball tomorrow night if all goes according to plan." Margaret studied her face. "You're taking this well." "Why wouldn't I?" "Because Cecilia is your younger sister, and this is her first season." Eliza turned a page. "Cecilia is beautiful. Beautiful women get married. It's the natural order of things." "You're not ugly, Eliza." "I'm not beautiful. There's a difference." She looked up, meeting Margaret's concerned gaze. "I'm plain, forgettable. The kind of woman men's eyes slide over on their way to someone interesting. I've made peace with it." "Have you?" The question hung in the air between them. Eliza wanted to say yes, she wanted to mean it. "I have plans," she said instead. "Aunt Cordelia has offered me a position as her companion. She travels extensively, Italy, Greece, Egypt. I could see the world, Margaret. I could be useful." "You could be alone." "I'm already alone. At least this way I'd be alone somewhere interesting." Margaret opened her mouth to respond, but footsteps in the hall silenced her. A moment later, Beatrice swept in, her expression tight. "Mother wants you. Apparently the modiste insists on measuring you despite Mother's protests, something about needing all daughters present for the family records." Beatrice's tone suggested this was a massive inconvenience. Just try not to take too long. We have actual important fittings to complete. Eliza marked her page and stood. Of course. The fitting room had been transformed into a workshop of silk and ambition. Cecilia stood on a platform in a confection of ivory and gold that probably cost more than most families earned in a year. She looked like a princess from a fairy tale, all golden curls and porcelain skin. Ah, Miss Eliza. Madame Belrose, the modiste, waved her over with a tape measure. Come, come. This will only take a moment. Surely that's not necessary, Lady Harrow said from her position by the window. Eliza won't be attending most of the major events this season. There's no point in wasting nonsense. Every young lady needs proper gowns, and who knows? Perhaps this will be Miss Eliza's season. The silence that followed was devastating. Even the assistants stopped moving. Lady Harrow's laugh was sharp and bright. How delightful you are, Madame Belrose. But let's not waste time on fantasy. Simple evening dresses will suffice for Eliza. Nothing too elaborate. Madame Belrose's expression flickered, a brief moment of pity that Eliza felt like a slap. But the modiste was professional. She took her measurements quickly and efficiently, while Lady Harrow listed requirements for Cecilia's trousseau. The Ashford Ball is the event of the season, her mother was saying. Everyone who matters will be there. Cecilia must look perfect. I've heard the Duke himself will be in attendance. One of the assistants gasped. The Duke of Thornhaven? But he never attends social functions. He's attending this one, which means every unmarried woman in London will be positioning herself in his path. Lady Harrow's smile was calculating. We must be strategic. Eliza held still while the tape measure circled her waist. She'd heard of Duke Rowan Ashford. Everyone had. He was a legend built from rumors and fear. Incredibly wealthy, politically powerful, and completely antisocial. He'd inherited the title at 19 after his father's scandalous death, and had spent the subsequent decade building an empire while avoiding society entirely. The fact that he was attending a ball was news. The fact that he was unmarried at 32 was a national fascination. They say he's cold as ice, Beatrice said, examining a fabric swatch. That he once ruined a man completely because he didn't like the way he tied his cravat. That's ridiculous, Cecilia said, but she looked nervous. Is it? Lord Hampton told me the Duke has eyes like a wolf, that when he looks at you, you feel like prey. Enough! Lady Harrow's voice cracked like a whip. I won't have you frightening your sister with gossip. The Duke of Thornhaven is a man, like any other. Powerful, yes. Particular, certainly. But still a man. And men are predictable. Eliza doubted that very much. The measurements completed, she was dismissed with a wave of her mother's hand. She retreated to her room, smaller than her sister's, tucked at the end of the hall where guests wouldn't accidentally encounter her, and stood at the window looking out over the square. London during the season was beautiful in a ruthless sort of way. All glittering facades and calculated charm. People dressed in their finest and smiled with their sharpest teeth. Alliances were forged and destroyed over tea. Reputations rose and fell on the strength of a waltz. Eliza had never belonged in this world. She lacked the weapons, beauty, charm, the ability to lie convincingly about her interests. She asked too many questions, read too many books, and had a habit of saying what she actually thought instead of what people wanted to hear. In another life, in another world, maybe those things would be assets. Here they were liabilities. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Come in. Margaret entered carrying a dress over her arm. From Madame Belrose. She said to tell you it's a gift. The dress was midnight blue, simple in design but exquisitely made. The kind of dress that wouldn't draw attention but wouldn't embarrass either. A dress for someone who knew how to disappear. That was kind of her, Eliza said quietly. She also said, Margaret hesitated. She said you have good bones, that with the right styling, you could be striking. Striking isn't beautiful. No, it's better. Beautiful women are everywhere. Striking women are remembered. Eliza took the dress and held it up to the light. It doesn't matter. Mother won't let me attend anything important anyway. The Pemberton Ball is tomorrow. You're expected to attend that one. There's no way to avoid it without causing talk. Margaret's expression was gentle. Maybe this time will be different. Maybe. But Eliza didn't believe in maybes anymore. She believed in facts, in patterns, in the cold logic of social mathematics. And the mathematics were clear. Women like her didn't get fairy tale endings. They got companionships with elderly aunts and libraries in distant countries, which was fine. She'd made peace with it, hadn't she? The Pemberton ballroom blazed with light and ambition. Eliza entered behind her family, carefully positioned where custom demanded but visibility didn't. Her mother had outdone herself with Cecilia's presentation. Her sister looked like a young goddess, all gold and ivory and calculated innocence. Beatrice, in emerald silk, was a perfect complement. They moved through the crowd like royalty, collecting admirers and jealous glances in equal measure. Eliza wore the midnight blue dress. Margaret had done something clever with her hair, pulling it back in a style that emphasized her eyes. It was the best she'd ever looked, which wasn't saying much. "Remember," her mother hissed as they paused at the entrance, "you stay near the edges. Do not, under any circumstances, position yourself where important people might have to acknowledge you. Your sisters need room to shine." "Yes, mother." "And if anyone asks why you're not dancing, tell them you're recovering from a headache." "Of course." Lady Harrow swept forward with her daughters, her real daughters, the ones worth displaying, leaving Eliza to navigate the crowd alone. She found her usual position near a column at the edge of the ballroom. From here she could observe everything while remaining functionally invisible. It was a skill she'd perfected, the art of being present without being seen. The evening unfolded according to predictable patterns. Cecilia was immediately swarmed by admirers. Beatrice accepted dance after dance with practiced grace. Lady Harrow worked the room like a master strategist, positioning her daughters precisely where they needed to be. Eliza watched and thought about Egypt, about ancient libraries and desert sunsets, about a life where intelligence mattered more than cheekbones. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else." The voice came from her left, male, amused, completely unexpected. Eliza turned to find a young man she didn't recognize leaning against the same column. He was handsome in a careless way, with dark hair and sharp eyes that suggested intelligence. She glanced toward her mother, who was mercifully occupied across the room. "I'm not sure that's something I should admit." "Why not? It's true for half the people here. We just pretend better." He extended his hand. "Thomas Wainwright." "Eliza Harrow." His eyebrows rose slightly. "Harrow? Any relation to the Golden Sisters currently holding court?" There it was, the inevitable comparison. "They're my sisters." "Ah." He studied her with open curiosity. "And yet you're hiding behind a pillar. Interesting family dynamics." Despite herself, Eliza laughed. "You're very direct. Life's too short for dancing around the truth. Besides, I find you far more interesting than another simpering blonde who wants to talk about the weather." "I'm not interesting. I'm just here." "That's what interesting people always say." He glanced toward the dance floor. "Your sister, the younger one, Cecilia. She's about to get a proposal." Eliza followed his gaze. Lord Pemberton was indeed leading Cecilia toward the terrace, his expression nervous but determined. "You don't seem surprised," Thomas observed. "I'm not. It was always going to happen. Cecilia is everything a man could want in a wife. Beautiful, charming, biddable." "And you're none of those things?" "I'm certainly not biddable." He laughed, a genuine sound that drew a few curious glances. "I like you, Eliza Harrow. You say what you mean." "That's generally considered a flaw in a woman." "By idiots." He straightened. "Dance with me." Eliza's heart kicked hard against her ribs. I can't." "Why not?" "Because my mother will be furious. Because I'm not supposed to draw attention. Because men don't ask me to dance, and when they do, it's either pity or a mistake." "I'm recovering from a headache," she said instead. Thomas's expression shifted, understanding dawning. He glanced toward Lady Harrow, then back to Eliza. "I see. It's fine. I prefer observing anyway." "Do you?" His voice was gentle now, and somehow that was worse than mockery. "Or have you just convinced yourself you do?" Before she could answer, a commotion near the entrance cut through the music. The crowd shifted, conversations dying mid-sentence as heads turned toward the doorway. And there he was, Duke Rowan Ashford. Eliza had heard the descriptions, cold, wolf-like, intimidating, None of them were adequate. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and features that were more severe than handsome. But it was his presence that stopped the room. He moved like violence contained, like a predator who'd momentarily decided not to hunt. His eyes swept the ballroom with obvious disinterest. "Well," Thomas murmured, "this just got interesting." The Duke said something to Lord Pemberton, who'd rushed over to greet him. Then his gaze moved across the crowd, systematic and cold, lingering on no one, until it found Eliza. The impact was physical. His eyes locked on hers across the crowded room, and for a moment, one impossible, breath-stealing moment, the entire ballroom ceased to exist. He saw her. Not past her, not through her, saw her. Then Lady Harrow stepped directly into his line of sight, Beatrice at her side, and the moment shattered. The Duke's attention shifted, polite, distant, already moving on. Lady Harrow was speaking, gesturing toward Beatrice, her smile sharp with ambition. "Did that just happen?" Thomas asked quietly. Eliza couldn't speak. Her heart was hammering so hard she thought everyone must hear it. "Eliza, I need air." She fled toward the terrace doors, not caring if anyone noticed, not caring about anything except getting away from those eyes, from that impossible moment of being seen. The terrace was blessedly empty. Eliza gripped the stone railing and tried to remember how to breathe normally. It was nothing. A moment. A trick of the light or her own desperate imagination. The Duke of Thornhaven hadn't really looked at her. Not like that. Men like him didn't see women like her. She'd been invisible for so long that being seen, really seen, felt like standing in direct sunlight after years in shadow. Painful. Disorienting. Impossible. Footsteps behind her made her turn. For one wild second, she thought, but it was only Thomas, holding 2 glasses of champagne. "You looked like you needed this." "Thank you." She took the glass gratefully. "That was interesting." "It was nothing." "Eliza." He waited until she met his eyes. "I saw it. Half the room saw it. The most powerful duke in England looked at you like you were the only person in the room." He was probably just surprised to see someone not throwing themselves in his path. Maybe. Thomas didn't sound convinced. Or maybe he saw what I see. Someone real in a room full of performances. Before she could respond, the terrace doors opened again, and Cecilia rushed through, tears streaming down her face. She stopped short when she saw them. "Eliza, what happened? Did Lord Pemberton?" "He proposed." Cecilia's laugh was half-sob. "And I said yes. I'm engaged, Eliza. I'm actually engaged." "Congratulations." Eliza moved to embrace her sister, but Cecilia pulled back. "Mother's looking for you. She's very angry." Eliza's stomach dropped. "Why?" "The Duke. When you left, he—" Cecilia glanced at Thomas, then back to Eliza. "He asked who you were. Mother tried to redirect him to Beatrice, but he just kept asking about you. Eliza, what did you do?" "Nothing. I didn't do anything." "Well, you did something, and Mother is furious." Cecilia's expression was difficult to read. "She said you're to come immediately." Thomas set down his glass. "I should go, but Eliza—" He hesitated. "Don't let them dim you. Whatever happens next, remember that you're the most interesting person in that ballroom." Then he was gone, leaving Eliza alone with her sister. "I didn't do anything," she repeated quietly. "I know." Cecilia's voice was gentler now. "That's what makes it worse, isn't it? You didn't do anything, and he still noticed you." There was something in her sister's tone, not quite jealousy, but close. For the first time in her life, Eliza had something Cecilia wanted, and neither of them knew what to do with that. "We should go in," Eliza said. The ballroom felt different when they re-entered. Or maybe Eliza was different. She was acutely aware of eyes following her, of whispers that cut off when she drew near. Lady Harrow materialized out of the crowd like a storm given human form. "Eliza, with me, now." They found a small withdrawing room off the main corridor. Lady Harrow closed the door with ominous gentleness. "What?" she said, each word precise as a surgical cut. "Did you say to the Duke of Thornhaven?" "Nothing. I didn't speak to him at all." "Then why did he spend 10 minutes asking about you? Why did he ignore Beatrice, beautiful, accomplished Beatrice, to inquire after my strange, bookish, utterly unmarketable daughter? Eliza had no answer. She barely understood it herself. You will stay away from him, her mother continued. You will not seek him out. You will not position yourself in his path. You will not do anything to encourage whatever bizarre interest he's developed. Am I clear? Yes, mother. The Duke is far too important to waste on you. If he's looking for a wife, and God help us all if he is, it will be someone worthy, someone who can be an asset to a man of his position, not a girl who reads agricultural treatises and has all the social grace of a spooked horse. Each word landed like a blow. Eliza had heard variations of this speech before, but never with such venom. I understand. Do you? Lady Harrow's eyes were hard. Because if you ruin your sister's chances with your awkwardness, if you somehow damage their prospects because the Duke developed some temporary fascination with the odd daughter, Eliza, you will wish I'd left you in the country. It won't happen again. See that it doesn't. Eliza was dismissed. She made her way back to the ballroom, to her column, to her careful invisibility. But everything had shifted. She could feel eyes on her now, curious, speculative, resentful. For 18 years she'd been invisible. In one moment, one impossible glance, that invisibility had been stripped away, and she didn't know if what lay beneath was strong enough to survive being seen. The rest of the ball passed in a blur. Cecilia's engagement was announced to appropriate fanfare. Beatrice danced every dance. Lady Harrow held court like a queen, and Eliza stood in her corner and wondered if she'd imagined the entire thing. But then, as the evening wound down, as guests began to depart, she saw him again. Duke Rowan Ashford stood near the entrance, clearly preparing to leave. His expression was as remote as ever, his posture suggesting boredom. Then his eyes found hers across the room. This time she didn't look away. Couldn't look away. For 3 heartbeats they stared at each other across the glittering crowd. And this time, impossibly, he nodded, just slightly, an acknowledgement that what had passed between them was real. Then he was gone, leaving Eliza standing in the shadows, her world tilted permanently off its axis. That night, lying in her bed, she pressed her hands to her chest and felt her heart racing. He had seen her, not her invisibility, not her plainness, not the carefully constructed armor of lowered expectations. He had seen her. And terrifying as it was, intoxicating as it was, impossible as it seemed, part of her wanted to be seen again. The morning after this Pemberton ball arrived with all the subtlety of a hammer blow. Eliza woke to shouting, her mother's voice echoing through the halls with the kind of fury that made servants scatter. She pulled on her dressing gown and opened her door just as Margaret rushed past, her face pale. What's happened? Flowers, 3 carriages worth, all addressed to you. Eliza's stomach dropped. That's not possible. Come see for yourself. The entrance hall looked like a hothouse had exploded. Roses, orchids, lilies, arrangements so elaborate they could have decorated a royal wedding. Servants stood frozen, unsure where to put anything, while Lady Harrow stood in the center of the chaos like a general surveying a battlefield gone catastrophically wrong. This is unacceptable, her mother's voice could have cut glass. Utterly unacceptable. Beatrice stood on the stairs in her nightdress, staring at the spectacle with an expression Eliza couldn't quite read. Cecilia was nowhere to be seen, probably still asleep, dreaming of her engagement. Mother, I don't understand. Of course you don't understand. You never understand anything. Lady Harrow snatched a card from the nearest arrangement and thrust it at Eliza. Explain this. The card was simple, expensive. Heavy cream paper with a ducal seal pressed into black wax. No message, just a name written in bold, confident script. Duke Rowan Ashford, Thornhaven Estate. I didn't ask for this. Didn't ask? Didn't ask? Her mother's laugh was sharp enough to draw blood. You did something at that ball, something to catch his attention. What was it? Did you throw yourself at him? Did you manufacture some meeting? No, I told you, I didn't even speak to him. Then why, Lady Harrow said, each word precisely enunciated, is the most powerful duke in England sending you flowers? Eliza had no answer. She stood there in her dressing gown, holding a card that felt like it weighed 10 pounds, while her entire world tilted sideways. "Perhaps he's just being polite," Beatrice offered from the stairs. Her voice was carefully neutral, but there was something brittle underneath. "Acknowledging all the young ladies at the ball. Don't be naive. Men like the Duke of Thornhaven don't do anything without purpose." Lady Harrow turned back to Eliza. "You will return these, every single arrangement, with a note declining his attentions." "But there is no but. You are not equipped to handle a man of his caliber. You would embarrass yourself and, more importantly, embarrass this family. I will not allow it." "Lady Harrow," the butler's voice cut through the tension, "there's a gentleman here to see Miss Eliza. He says the Duke sent him." The silence that followed was absolute. A man entered the hall, tall, impeccably dressed, with the bearing of someone used to being obeyed. "Miss Harrow? I'm Mr. Blackwood, steward to the Duke of Thornhaven. His Grace requests the honor of your presence at a private dinner this evening. He's sent a carriage for 8 o'clock. Eliza couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "That won't be possible," Lady Harrow said. "My daughter has prior commitments." Mr. Blackwood's expression didn't change. "His Grace anticipated you might say that. He asked me to convey that he's already spoken with Lord Harrow, who has given his blessing. The invitation stands." "My husband—" Lady Harrow's face went white, then red. "Where is my husband?" "At his club, my lady. He left quite early this morning." Of course he had. Lord Harrow had probably run to his club the moment the first flowers arrived, leaving his wife to handle the social catastrophe of their unmarketable daughter catching a duke's eye. "Well," Mr. Blackwood continued smoothly, "I'll return at 8. Miss Harrow, please dress appropriately. His Grace keeps a formal table." He nodded politely and departed, leaving chaos in his wake. Lady Harrow turned on Eliza with an expression of pure venom. "Your father, your idiotic, weak-willed father, has sabotaged everything. Do you understand what this means? If you go to that dinner and make a fool of yourself, when you make a fool of yourself, the entire ton will know. They'll laugh at you, at us, and your sister's prospects will be ruined by association. Then I won't go. You have to go now. Refusing would be an insult, one that would destroy us far more efficiently than your inevitable failure." Her mother's hands were shaking with rage. "You'll go. You'll be polite. And when the Duke realizes his mistake, because he will, you will accept the rejection with grace and never speak of this again. Do you understand?" "Yes, Mother." "Beatrice, help your sister dress. Try to make her presentable. Though I suppose that's asking for miracles." The hours until 8 o'clock stretched like torture. Beatrice helped her bathe and dress with a silence that was somehow worse than their mother's fury. She chose a gown of deep green, one of Madame Belrose's creations that had somehow survived Lady Harrow's purge, and arranged Eliza's hair in a style that was elegant without being showy. "There," Beatrice said finally, stepping back to examine her work. You look beautiful, actually." Eliza stared at her reflection. The woman looking back at her was still plain, still too serious, but there was something different, something that might almost be called striking. "Beatrice, don't." Her sister's voice cracked slightly. "Don't apologize. You didn't do anything wrong." "I know you were hoping." "I said don't." Beatrice turned away, fussing with the jewelry box. "Mother positioned me perfectly. I did everything right. I smiled. I laughed at his jokes, the few times he actually spoke. And he looked right through me, like I was made of glass." "I'm sorry." "Are you?" Beatrice whirled around. "Are you really? Because you're about to have dinner with the most powerful man in England. You're about to sit across from someone who could give you everything. And you didn't even try. You just stood there being yourself. And it was enough." The words hung between them. "I don't know what to do," Eliza said quietly. "I don't know how to be what he thinks I am." "Then maybe you should just be yourself, since apparently that's what he wants." Beatrice's expression softened slightly. "Just be careful, Eliza. Men like the Duke don't pursue women for simple reasons. Whatever he wants from you, make sure you understand the price." At 7:45, Eliza descended the stairs. Her family waited in the hall, her mother tight-lipped and furious, her father avoiding everyone's eyes, Cecilia looking curious and slightly concerned. Beatrice stood apart, her expression unreadable. The carriage that waited outside was magnificent, black lacquer and the Thornhaven crest in silver. A footman helped her inside, and then they were moving through London streets that looked both familiar and foreign in the gathering dark. Eliza pressed her gloved hands together and tried to think, tried to understand what was happening. Duke Rowan Ashford didn't know her. He'd seen her once, across a crowded room. What could possibly have prompted this? The carriage stopped before a townhouse that dominated an entire corner of Mayfair. It was beautiful in a severe sort of way, all clean lines and understated wealth that somehow managed to look more impressive than the most ornate mansion. Mr. Blackwood met her at the door. "This way, Miss Harrow." The interior was stunning. Dark wood, rich fabrics, paintings that probably cost more than her family's entire estate. But it wasn't ostentatious. Everything served a purpose, suggested power without needing to shout about it. They passed through several rooms before reaching what appeared to be a private dining room. Smaller than she'd expected, intimate almost. A table set for two, and standing at the window, looking out over the darkened square, was the Duke himself. He turned when she entered. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. "Miss Harrow, thank you for coming." His voice was deeper than she'd expected, rougher, like he didn't use it often for pleasantries. "Your Grace." She curtsied, hoping she remembered the proper depth for a duke. "Thank you for the invitation." "Rowan, when we're alone, call me Rowan." That was unexpected. I'm not sure that would be appropriate. Probably not, but I'm not particularly interested in what's appropriate. He gestured to the table. "Please, sit." She did, acutely aware that they were alone, that this was wildly improper, that her mother would have an apoplexy if she knew there wasn't even a maid present. Rowan took the seat across from her. "I imagine you're confused." That's an understatement. The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. "I prefer directness." "Good." "I'm not trying to be direct. I genuinely don't understand what's happening. What's happening is that I noticed you at the Pemberton ball, and when I asked about you, I was told a series of fascinating things." Eliza's stomach clenched. "Such as?" "That you're the third daughter, the plain one, the one your mother keeps hidden because she's an embarrassment to the family." He said it matter-of-factly, like he was discussing the weather. "That you read too much, think too much, and have no social graces whatsoever." Heat flooded her cheeks. "I see." And I thought, how interesting. How very interesting that a woman with all those qualities managed to be the only person in that entire ballroom who didn't look at me like I was a prize to be won. "I didn't mean to." "Don't." His voice was sharp. "Don't apologize for being real in a room full of performance." It was the first honest thing I'd seen in years. Dinner arrived then, servants appearing silently to place dishes that probably had French names Eliza couldn't pronounce. She waited until they departed before speaking. "Why am I here?" "Really?" "Because I'm tired." He said it simply, like it explained everything. "Tired of women who want my title. Tired of mothers who see me as a solution to their financial problems. Tired of conversations that mean nothing and smiles that hide calculation. And you think I'm different." "I know you're different. I had you investigated." Eliza's fork clattered against her plate. "You what?" "Don't look so scandalized. Anyone in my position investigates thoroughly before pursuing any connection." He took a sip of wine. "You're intelligent. You read everything you can get your hands on. You have opinions on agricultural reform, of all things. And you've been systematically erased by your own family for the crime of being interesting instead of ornamental." That's an invasion of privacy." "Yes, it is." He didn't look remotely apologetic, but it told me what I needed to know. "You're not like the others. You don't want my money or my title. In fact, if I'm reading the situation correctly, you'd be perfectly happy if I'd never noticed you at all." He wasn't wrong, which was somehow more disturbing than anything else. "I don't understand what you want from me." "Conversation, honesty. Someone who'll tell me when I'm being an ass instead of laughing behind their fan like it's charming." He leaned back in his chair. "I'm 32 years old, Miss Harrow. I've spent the last decade building power and avoiding society because I found it unbearable. But certain pressures have made it clear that I need to marry. I need an heir, and I'll be damned if I'm going to tie myself to someone who bores me after 5 minutes." "So this is what?" An audition? This is dinner, and a chance for you to decide if I'm worth the trouble. Eliza laughed. She couldn't help it. The sound surprised them both. Worth the trouble? You're gray as Rowan. Do you understand what happened after you sent those flowers? My mother threatened to disown me. My sister looked at me like I'd stolen something. The servants whispered. I spent the entire day being treated like I'd committed some crime by being noticed. Yes, I imagine that was difficult. Difficult doesn't begin to cover it. And yet you came. She had. Despite everything, despite the fear and the confusion and the certainty that this would end badly, she'd gotten in that carriage. I came because refusing would have been worse, not because I want this. Don't you? His eyes, dark, intense, missing nothing, locked onto hers. Don't you want someone to see you, to value your mind instead of measuring your marriage ability by your cheekbones? The question landed like a blow. Because he was right. Some part of her, the part she'd buried under years of careful invisibility, desperately wanted exactly that. What I want doesn't matter. My life is already planned. I'm going to be a companion to my aunt. I'll travel, see the world, be useful. It's a good life. It's a safe life. There's a difference. Safe is what I can have. Is it what you want? Before she could answer, the door burst open. Mr. Blackwood rushed in, his usual composure shattered. Your Grace, I apologize for the interruption, but there's a situation. Lady Harrow is here. She's demanding to see her daughter immediately. Eliza's blood went cold. Rowan's expression didn't change. I see. Show her to the drawing room. We'll be there momentarily. Your Grace, it's fine, Blackwood. I expected something like this. The steward departed, and Rowan turned back to Eliza. Are you afraid of your mother? Not afraid, just aware of consequences. Such as? Such as she'll make my life unbearable if she thinks I'm overstepping. She'll punish me for daring to be noticed. Eliza stopped, horrified at how much she'd revealed. Rowan stood and offered his hand. Come, let's not keep her waiting. The drawing room was as elegant as everything else in the house. Lady Harrow stood in the center, flanked by Beatrice and, surprisingly, Lord Harrow, who looked like he'd rather be literally anywhere else. There you are. Her mother's voice was icicles and fury. Eliza, we're leaving. Now. We're in the middle of dinner, Rowan said calmly. I don't care if you're in the middle of an audience with the king. My daughter is leaving. This entire situation is inappropriate, and I won't have her reputation destroyed by having dinner with a duke? I'm curious, Lady Harrow, what exactly you think is happening here? Lady Harrow's face flushed. I think you're playing some game, using my daughter for entertainment or to prove some point. And when you're finished, she'll be ruined, and my other daughters will suffer by association. I'm not playing games. Then what are your intentions? The question hung in the air. Eliza held her breath. Rowan looked at Lady Harrow with an expression of mild contempt. My intentions are to continue getting to know your daughter, to determine if we suit, and if we do, to marry her. The silence was absolute. Then Lady Harrow laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. Marry her? Don't be ridiculous. Eliza is completely unsuitable to be a duchess. She has no training, no connections worth mentioning, She has intelligence, honesty, and the ability to think for herself. That's worth more than all the training in England. You'll be a laughingstock. She'll embarrass you at every turn. The only person embarrassing anyone right now is you, madam. Rowan's voice went cold enough to frost glass. You've spent years telling your daughter she's worthless, making her believe invisibility is her only option. And now you're here, in my home, attempting to continue that abuse. It stops now. Lord Harrow cleared his throat nervously. Your Grace, perhaps we should discuss this calmly. There's nothing to discuss. I'm courting your daughter. You gave your permission this morning. If Eliza wishes to continue seeing me, she will. If she wishes to stop, that's her decision. Not yours, not her mother's. Hers. All eyes turned to Eliza. This was it. The moment where she could retreat to safety, to her planned life of companionship and careful invisibility, or she could step forward into something terrifying and unknown. I'd like to stay, she heard herself say, and finish dinner. Lady Harrow's expression went nuclear. You ungrateful, foolish, enough, Rowan's voice cracked like a whip. Blackwood will see you out. Eliza will be returned home safely by midnight. And Lady Harrow? He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. If you punish your daughter in any way for tonight, I will hear about it, and I will respond accordingly. Do we understand each other? The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Lady Harrow's face went white. Come, Margaret. She swept toward the door, Beatrice trailing behind. Lord Harrow hesitated, looking at Eliza with something that might have been concern or might have been cowardice. Be careful, daughter, was all he said before following his wife out. The door closed behind them. Eliza's legs suddenly felt weak. That was... She couldn't finish the sentence. Overdue. Rowan moved to the sideboard and poured 2 glasses of brandy. He handed her one. Drink. You look like you need it. She did, the liquid burning down her throat. You threatened my mother. I made a promise. There's a difference. She'll make me pay for this. Not if I have anything to say about it. He studied her. You can still change your mind. Walk away right now. I won't hold it against you. Could she? Could she really go back to her corner, her invisibility, her safe planned future? But when she closed her eyes, all she could see was his expression when he told her mother that Eliza's intelligence was worth more than training, when he'd called her honest in a room full of performance, when he'd seen her. I want to finish dinner, she said quietly, and then I'd like to know what happens next. His smile was slow, genuine, and entirely unexpected. Then let's go back to the dining room. You were about to tell me your thoughts on crop rotation. I'm genuinely curious. They returned to their meal, and somehow, impossibly, Eliza found herself relaxing, talking about things she'd never been allowed to discuss in polite company, debating agricultural reform and political theory and whether Shakespeare's histories were propaganda or art. Rowan listened, really listened, asked questions that showed he was engaged, not just being polite, challenged her when he disagreed, which somehow felt more respectful than automatic agreement. It was the best conversation she'd ever had. When the clock struck 11:30, he walked her to the carriage. I'd like to see you again, he said. There's a gallery showing tomorrow afternoon. Would you accompany me? My mother will never allow it. Your father already agreed. I secured his permission for the entire week. Eliza laughed despite herself. You're very thorough. I'm very interested. There's a difference. He helped her into the carriage. Until tomorrow, then. The carriage pulled away and Eliza watched his house disappear into the darkness. Her heart was racing. Her hands were shaking. Everything had changed, and she had no idea if she was brave enough to handle what came next. The house was dark when she arrived, but Lady Harrow waited in the hall like an avenging angel. Your room, now. Eliza climbed the stairs, her mother's footsteps sharp behind her. Once inside, Lady Harrow closed the door with ominous care. You think you've won something. You think because a duke noticed you, because he defended you, that your life has changed. I don't think anything. You're just a foolish girl playing at being special. He'll tire of you, Eliza. Men like him always do. He'll realize you're exactly what I've always said. Plain, awkward, unsuitable. And when he walks away, you'll have nothing. No prospects, no dignity, no future. You'll have ruined yourself and your sisters for a fantasy. Or maybe, Eliza said, surprised by her own steadiness, maybe he sees something you never could. The slap came fast and sharp, snapping her head to the side. Eliza pressed her hand to her stinging cheek, shocked. You will not speak to me that way. Her mother's voice was deadly quiet. You will attend this gallery showing tomorrow. You will be polite, and you will find a way to make him see the truth, that you are not worth his time. Do you understand? And if I don't? Then I will make sure everyone knows exactly what you are. A desperate, manipulative girl who used deception to catch a duke's attention. I will destroy whatever ridiculous fantasy you've built. Is that clear? Eliza looked at her mother, really looked at her, and saw fear beneath the fury. Fear that her plans were unraveling, that the daughter she'd discounted might somehow win. Crystal clear, mother. Lady Harrow left, slamming the door behind her. Eliza touched her burning cheek and thought about what Rowan had said, about responding accordingly if she was punished. She could tell him, could watch him destroy her mother's social standing with a few well-placed words. But that would make her exactly what Lady Harrow accused her of being, manipulative, using power she hadn't earned. No, She was going to do this. If she was going to step out of the shadows and into his world, she needed to do it on her own terms. Even if that meant surviving her mother's wrath alone. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling and let herself feel the fear. The excitement, the terrifying, intoxicating possibility that maybe, just maybe, being seen wasn't the end of her story. It was the beginning. The gallery showing was meant to be a simple afternoon outing. It became a declaration of war. Eliza arrived in the Thornhaven carriage, her cheeks still tender beneath carefully applied powder. Margaret had done her best to hide the mark, but in certain light, it was visible, a faint shadow that spoke of consequences. Rowan was waiting at the entrance, impeccable as always in charcoal gray. His eyes went immediately to her face, and something dangerous flickered in his expression. "What happened?" "Nothing. I'm fine." "Don't lie to me." He touched her chin, tilting her face toward the light. His jaw tightened. "She hit you." "It's not important. It's extremely important." His voice was quiet, controlled, which somehow made it more frightening. "Tell me exactly what happened." "Rowan, please, if you make this into something, it will only get worse." "It can't get worse than a mother striking her daughter for accepting an invitation." "You don't know my mother. She can always make things worse." They stood at the gallery entrance while London society flowed around them. People were staring, whispering behind fans. The Duke of Thornhaven and the plain Harrow girl, standing close enough to suggest intimacy. "Come inside," Rowan said finally. "But this conversation isn't over." The gallery was packed with society's elite, all pretending to admire art while actually cataloging who stood with whom and what it meant. Eliza felt eyes following them as Rowan guided her through the crowds, his hand firm at her elbow. "Your Grace!" Lady Pemberton materialized from the crowd, Cecilia at her side. "How wonderful to see you. And Miss Eliza, of course. Cecilia was just saying how much she missed her sister." Cecilia looked uncomfortable, caught between social obligation and genuine concern. "Eliza, are you well? Mother said you were indisposed yesterday." "I'm perfectly fine." "She's better than fine," Rowan said. "She was kind enough to accept my invitation despite your mother's attempts to prevent it." Lady Pemberton's smile froze. This was too direct, too honest. Polite society demanded they all pretend everything was normal. I'm sure Lady Harrow simply wanted to protect her daughter's reputation. These things must be handled delicately. "Why?" Rowan's tone was genuinely curious. "Why must two people getting to know each other be handled delicately? What exactly are we all pretending to protect?" The small group around them had gone silent. This wasn't how dukes spoke. This wasn't how anyone spoke. "Your Grace, perhaps we should view the portraits," Eliza said quietly, trying to salvage the situation. He looked at her, and something in his expression softened. "Of course." They moved deeper into the gallery, leaving scandalized whispers in their wake. "You can't do that," Eliza said when they were relatively alone before a massive landscape. "Do what?" "Say exactly what you think. Question social conventions. People don't know how to handle it." "That's their problem, not mine." "It becomes my problem when they decide I'm the reason you're behaving strangely. When they blame me for corrupting you or manipulating you or let them think what they want. Their opinions mean nothing. They mean everything." Eliza's voice rose slightly, drawing glances from nearby viewers. She lowered it again. "You have power, position. You can afford to ignore society's rules because you're too important to be truly damaged by disapproval. I don't have that luxury. If this goes wrong, if you decide I'm not worth the trouble after all, I'm the one who'll be destroyed, not you." Rowan stared at the painting for a long moment. "You think I'll walk away?" "I think men with your power always have that option, and women in my position never do." "Then let me be clear about something." He turned to face her fully. "I don't walk away from things I value. Ask anyone who's tried to negotiate with me. Ask the men who thought they could manipulate me into bad business deals. I commit completely, or I don't commit at all. You barely know me. I know enough. You're intelligent, honest, and brave enough to tell me when I'm being an ass, even when it costs you. That's more than most people I've known for years." Before Eliza could respond, Beatrice appeared, looking uncharacteristically agitated. "Eliza, we need to talk. Now." "I'm in the middle of..." "Now." Beatrice glanced at Rowan. Please, Your Grace. It's a family matter. Rowan studied her face, then nodded. I'll be examining the Turner collection. Take your time. He moved away and Beatrice immediately grabbed Eliza's arm, pulling her toward a quieter corner. What are you doing? What do you mean? Don't play innocent. You're courting scandal with the most powerful man in England. Do you have any idea what's being said about you? I can imagine. No, you can't. Because you've spent your entire life hiding. You don't understand how vicious society can be when someone breaks the rules. Beatrice's grip tightened. They're saying you seduced him, that you used witchcraft or manipulation, or your body, that the Duke is under some spell and when it breaks, he'll destroy you for making a fool of him. That's ridiculous. Of course it's ridiculous, but it's what they're saying, and Mother is doing nothing to stop it. In fact, I think she's encouraging it. Eliza went cold. What? She's been having tea with Lady Ashworth, Lady Pemberton, the Duchess of Waverley, all the women who shape opinion, and she's been very carefully suggesting that you're unbalanced, that you've always been strange, that the family has tried to protect you, but now you're beyond control. The betrayal shouldn't have surprised her, but it did. Why are you telling me this? Beatrice looked away. Because despite everything, you're still my sister. And because part of me is furious that you got noticed by being yourself while I did everything right and got ignored. But mostly because what Mother's doing is wrong, and someone needs to warn you. Warn me about what exactly? She's building a narrative, so when the Duke inevitably loses interest, because that's what she's convinced will happen, everyone will nod and say, poor man, taken in by that peculiar Harrow girl. And you'll be finished, completely unmarriageable, a cautionary tale. Eliza's stomach churned. Her mother wasn't just trying to end this. She was trying to destroy any possibility of a future. What should I do? I don't know. Run? Pray? Hope the Duke is actually serious and not just amusing himself? Beatrice's voice cracked. I'm sorry, I should have said something sooner. I was angry. Jealous. You didn't even try, and he chose you. I know. Do you? Do you understand how that feels? To do everything right and still be invisible? The irony was almost funny. Yes, Beatrice. I understand that better than anyone. They stood in silence for a moment, sisters and strangers, bound by blood and divided by everything else. He's watching us, Beatrice said quietly. The Duke. He hasn't taken his eyes off you since I pulled you away. Eliza turned. Rowan stood across the gallery, pretending to study a painting but clearly monitoring the situation. When their eyes met, he tilted his head slightly. A question, she nodded. I'm fine. You should go back to him, Beatrice said. And Eliza? Whatever you decide to do, do it quickly. Mother's building momentum. Soon it won't matter what the truth is. The story will be set. Eliza returned to Rowan's side. He studied her face. Bad news? My mother is spreading rumors about me, laying groundwork to destroy my reputation when this ends. When? Not if. She's convinced it's inevitable. Rowan's expression went glacial. I see. And what do you think? I think I'm tired of other people deciding my fate. Then decide it yourself, right here, right now. Do you want to continue this? Knowing it will get worse before it gets better? Knowing your family will fight you every step of the way? Eliza looked around the gallery, at the society women watching them with calculating eyes, at Lady Pemberton whispering to her companions, at the men who looked at her like she was either a curiosity or an embarrassment. This was her mother's world. These were her mother's rules, and Eliza was done playing by them. Yes, she said clearly, I want to continue this. Then we make a statement, something she can't spin or reframe. What kind of statement? His smile was sharp enough to cut. Come with me. He led her through the gallery to the central rotunda, where most of the crowd had gathered. Without preamble, without warning, he raised his voice. Ladies and gentlemen, if I might have your attention. The crowd fell silent. Every eye turned toward them. I want to make something clear. I'm courting Miss Eliza Harrow, not because I'm amusing myself, not because I'm under any spell, but because I find her to be the most interesting, intelligent woman I've encountered in years. Any rumors to the contrary are not only false, but will be met with consequences. Am I understood? The silence was absolute. No one moved. No one breathed. Then Thomas Wainwright started clapping, slowly at first, then more enthusiastically. Well said, Your Grace. Well said indeed. A few others joined in, uncertain, scattered applause, but most just stared. Rowan offered Eliza his arm. Shall we continue viewing the collection? They walked through the stunned crowd like they owned the place, which Eliza supposed Rowan essentially did. That was insane, she said when they were finally alone again. That was necessary. Your mother wanted to control the narrative. Now she can't. You've made her an enemy. She was already my enemy the moment she raised her hand to you. They spent the next hour actually viewing the art. Rowan had strong opinions about technique and composition, and they argued pleasantly about the merits of various painters. For a little while, Eliza could almost forget the chaos brewing outside. But reality returned when Mr. Blackwood appeared, his expression grim. Your Grace, I apologize for interrupting, but there's a situation at the townhouse. You're needed immediately. What kind of situation? Lady Harrow, she arrived an hour ago demanding to speak with you. When told you were out, she refused to leave. She's caused quite a scene. Rowan's jaw tightened. Send Miss Harrow home in my carriage. I'll deal with Lady Harrow. No. Eliza's voice was firm. I'm coming with you. Eliza, she's my mother. This is my fight too. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. All right, but if things become unpleasant, you let me handle it. They arrived at the townhouse to find chaos. Lady Harrow stood in the entrance hall, her face flushed with rage, while two footmen hovered uncertainly nearby. Lord Harrow stood off to the side, looking like he wished the floor would swallow him. Finally, her mother's voice could have stripped paint. Do you have any idea how long I've been waiting? The humiliation of being made to stand here like some common... You weren't made to do anything. Rowan's voice was cold as ice. You invaded my home and refused to leave. That's not my problem. How dare you speak to me that way? I am Lady... You are a woman who struck her daughter for accepting a dinner invitation. Titles don't impress me, Lady Harrow. Character does, and yours is severely lacking. Lady Harrow's face went white. You told him. She whirled on Eliza. You told him. After I specifically ordered you... He saw the bruise. Did you think I could hide it forever? You manipulative little... Her mother took a step forward, and Rowan moved between them so fast it was almost a blur. Touch her again, and I will destroy you. His voice was so quiet, so controlled, that it was absolutely terrifying. Not your reputation, not your social standing. You. I will find every secret you've ever kept, every mistake you've tried to bury, and I will make sure the world knows exactly what kind of woman you are. This is insane. She's turned you against her own family. Can't you see what she's doing? What I see is a woman who spent 18 years diminishing her daughter because she threatened your carefully ordered world. What I see is abuse dressed up as maternal concern, and it ends now. You can't tell me how to raise my daughter. She's not a child. She's a grown woman who can make her own choices. And she's chosen to let me court her. You can accept that with grace, or I can make your life exceedingly difficult. Your choice. The silence stretched tight as a wire. Lord Harrow finally found his voice. Perhaps we should all calm down. Discuss this rationally. There's nothing to discuss. Rowan didn't take his eyes off Lady Harrow. Your wife has two options. She can accept this courtship and keep her opinions to herself. Or she can continue her campaign against Eliza, in which case I will make it my personal mission to ensure she regrets it. You're threatening me. I'm making a promise. There's a difference. Lady Harrow looked at Eliza with something that might have been hatred or fear or both. You think you've won. You think because a duke defended you because he threatened me, that your life has changed. But you're still the same girl you always were. Plain, awkward, unsuitable. And one day, very soon, he'll see it too. The words landed like arrows, precise and poisoned. Eliza felt them hit, felt the old wounds open, but then Rowan spoke. You're wrong. I already see exactly who she is, and unlike you, I have the sense to value it. He offered Eliza his arm. Come, we're leaving. But now. They walked past Lady Harrow, past Lord Harrow's ineffectual protests, out into the afternoon sun. A carriage waited, not Rowan's usual one, but something larger, more formal. Where are we going? Thornhaven Estate, my country house. It's 2 hours from London. I can't just leave. My mother will. Your mother can't do anything. You're of age. You don't need permission. He helped her into the carriage. I'm taking you somewhere she can't reach you, somewhere you can breathe without looking over your shoulder. For how long? As long as you need. The carriage began moving. Eliza watched the city slide past, her heart hammering. This was madness. Leaving London, going to his estate, unchaperoned. It was social suicide. But staying meant enduring her mother's rage and society's whispers, and the slow erosion of whatever small courage she'd found. I should write to Margaret, let her know I'm safe. Already done. Blackwood sent word before we left. Of course he had. Rowan thought of everything. The countryside unfolded around them. Rolling green fields, ancient forests, villages that looked like illustrations from storybooks. Eliza had rarely left London. The world felt suddenly enormous. Tell me about Thornhaven, she said. It's old, drafty in winter. The East Wing has portraits of ancestors who all look like they died unhappy. His voice softened. But it has a library that makes yours look like a bookshelf, and grounds where you can walk for hours without seeing another soul. It sounds lonely. It is. That's why I want you there. The admission hung between them. Eliza looked at him, really looked at him. The severe features, the controlled power, the careful distance he maintained from everyone. He was lonely. And somehow he'd decided she was the solution. Thornhaven Estate appeared as the sun began setting, a massive manor house of gray stone that looked like it had grown out of the landscape itself, beautiful in a harsh sort of way, like everything associated with Rowan. The staff were clearly prepared for their arrival. A housekeeper showed Eliza to rooms that were larger than her family's drawing room, with windows overlooking gardens that stretched to the horizon. His Grace requests you join him for dinner at 8, the housekeeper said. If you need anything, pull the bell cord. Alone finally, Eliza sank onto the bed and tried to process what had happened. In the space of 3 days, her entire life had been dismantled and reassembled into something unrecognizable. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. A maid entered carrying a gown. From His Grace, miss. He thought you might need suitable dinner attire. The dress was stunning, deep sapphire silk that would bring out her eyes, simple but elegant, the kind of thing women with taste and confidence wore. Eliza let the maid help her dress and arrange her hair. When she finally looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Dinner was served in a smaller dining room than the formal one in London, more intimate. Candles cast warm light over dark wood and old silver. Rowan stood when she entered, his expression shifting to something she couldn't quite identify. You look beautiful. I look different. You look like yourself without all the armor you usually wear. They sat. Dinner arrived. Roast chicken, fresh vegetables from the estate gardens, bread that was still warm. I need to ask you something, Eliza said, and I need you to be honest. Always. Why me? Really? You could have anyone. Women more beautiful, better connected, better trained for this life. Why choose the one everyone else overlooked? Rowan set down his fork. I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone. My father was a brutal man, charming in public, vicious in private. He married my mother for her connections, and when she couldn't give him the perfect heir, he made her life hell. I watched her shrink over the years, watched her become this ghost of a person, too afraid to speak or smile or exist. He paused, his jaw tight. She died when I was 17. The official cause was influenza. But I knew better. He'd broken her so completely that she'd just given up, and everyone around us knew. Everyone saw. But no one said anything because he was powerful, and she was just a wife. I'm sorry. I swore I'd never be like him, never marry someone I'd destroy. But I also swore I'd never marry someone weak enough to be destroyed. He looked at her. You've survived 18 years of being told you're worthless. You're still here, still yourself. That's not weakness, Eliza. That's steel wrapped in silk. The words wrapped around her heart and squeezed. I'm not strong. I'm just stubborn. Same thing, usually. He reached across the table, covering her hand with his. I'm not offering you an easy life. Being with me means enemies you haven't earned, scrutiny you don't deserve, pressure that never stops. But I can promise you this. I will never ask you to be smaller, never punish you for being yourself, and I will fight anyone who tries. Even my own mother, especially your mother. They finished dinner in comfortable silence. After, Rowan showed her the library. 3 stories of books, with ladders on rails and reading nooks tucked into alcoves. It was paradise made tangible. This is incredible. It's yours, for as long as you want it. Eliza pulled a volume off the shelf at random, an agricultural treatise, naturally, and settled into a chair by the window. Rowan took the chair opposite, pulling down a book of his own. They read in companionable silence as darkness fell outside. This was what her mother could never understand. Happiness wasn't glittering ballrooms or advantageous marriages. It was quiet moments with someone who didn't need you to perform. But that peace shattered at midnight when frantic pounding echoed through the house. Rowan was on his feet instantly, moving toward the commotion. Eliza followed. Mr. Blackwood stood in the entrance hall, soaking wet and clearly distraught. Your Grace, I apologize for the intrusion, but there's been an incident in London. It's urgent. What kind of incident? It's Miss Harrow's family. There's been... He glanced at Eliza. Perhaps we should speak privately. No, Eliza said. Tell us. Blackwood took a breath. There's a letter circulating through the ton. Someone forged your signature, Miss Harrow. The letter claims that you seduced the Duke deliberately, that you planned the entire courtship to trap him into marriage for his money. It's very detailed, very convincing, and it's destroying your reputation. The room tilted. Eliza grabbed the nearest chair for support. Who sent it? Rowan's voice was deadly calm. We don't know yet, but it's been delivered to every major household in London. By morning, everyone will have read it. Eliza's mind raced. My mother, she did this. She said she'd destroy me if I didn't end things. We don't have proof. I don't need proof. I know her. She looked at Rowan. This is what she does. When she can't control something, she destroys it. Then we'll prove the letter is fake. It won't matter. Eliza's voice was dull. The damage is done. Everyone who wanted to believe I was manipulating you now has confirmation. Everyone who was jealous now has ammunition. Facts won't change that. So what do you want to do? The question stopped her. What did she want? She could run, disappear to Aunt Cordelia's, let this blow over, live quietly in the margins, or she could fight. I want to go back to London, she said. I want to face them, all of them. That's dangerous. If you return now, if I don't return now, I've already lost. They'll say I ran because the letter was true, that I couldn't face the consequences of my manipulation. She straightened. I won't give them that satisfaction. Rowan studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled, fierce and proud and completely unexpected. Then we leave at dawn. And Eliza? His hand found hers. When we get there, let me do something I should have done days ago. What? Prove to everyone that you're exactly where you belong. The carriage ride back to London felt like riding toward battle. Eliza's hands shook despite her best efforts to stay calm. When they arrived, the city felt different, hostile. Every passing pedestrian seemed to stare, every whisper seemed aimed at her. Straight to my townhouse, Rowan ordered. We'll strategize there. But when they turned onto his street, chaos waited. A crowd had gathered, reporters, curiosity seekers, people who just wanted to witness drama unfold. The carriage stopped. Rowan's jaw tightened. Stay behind me. They exited into a barrage of shouted questions. Your Grace, is it true Miss Harrow seduced you? Miss Harrow, how much were you paid to trap the Duke? Is the engagement off? Rowan moved through the crowd like a ship cutting through water, Eliza in his wake. They reached the door just as another carriage pulled up behind them. Lady Harrow emerged, flanked by Beatrice and Cecilia. Her expression was triumphant. How convenient. We can settle this publicly, Your Grace. My daughter's deception exposed, your reputation salvaged. The only deception here is yours. Rowan's voice carried across the crowd. You forged that letter. I did no such thing, though I can't say I'm surprised someone finally exposed the truth. Prove it. Prove what? That Eliza wrote that letter. prove any of it. He turned to the crowd. In fact, I'll make this simple. Anyone who can provide credible evidence that Miss Harrow manipulated me in any way will receive £10,000. The crowd erupted. Lady Harrow's face went white. You can't be serious. Completely serious, because the truth is there is no evidence. There is no manipulation. There's only a mother so threatened by her daughter's happiness that she'd rather destroy her completely than watch her succeed. This is slander. This is truth. And I'm done playing games. He pulled Eliza close, his arm firm around her waist. Miss Harrow and I are engaged. The wedding will take place in 3 weeks. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me personally. The world stopped. Engaged. 3 weeks. Eliza turned to him, shocked. What? Trust me, he murmured. Then louder, to the crowd. Any questions? The reporters erupted. Lady Harrow looked like she might faint, and Eliza stood frozen, realizing that everything had just changed, irrevocably, terrifyingly, permanently. The crowd erupted into chaos, reporters shouting questions, onlookers pressing closer, Lady Harrow's face cycling through shock, rage, and something that might have been fear. Eliza stood frozen in the center of it all, Rowan's arm still firm around her waist, anchoring her to reality. Inside, he murmured, now. They pushed through the crowd, Blackwood and 2 footmen clearing a path. Behind them, Eliza heard her mother's voice rising above the din. This is a mistake. Your Grace, you don't know what you're doing. The door slammed shut, cutting off the noise. Sudden silence pressed against Eliza's ears. You just announced our engagement, her voice came out strangled, in front of half of London, without asking me. I know. That's all you have to say? I know? Rowan turned to face her fully. Would you have preferred I let them tear you apart? Let your mother's lies stand unchallenged? I would have preferred you ask if I wanted to marry you before announcing it to the world. Fair point. He had the audacity to look slightly sheepish. In my defense, the situation required immediate action. So you proposed, publicly, as a tactical maneuver. Not entirely. He caught her hand when she tried to pull away. Eliza, look at me, please. She did. His eyes were dark, intense, completely serious. I was going to ask you properly. Tonight, actually. I had a ring commissioned, had a speech prepared, the whole performance. But when I saw that crowd, saw your mother standing there with that triumphant expression, I knew waiting would only give her more time to destroy you. So I accelerated the timeline. You accelerated? Eliza laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. You accelerated our entire future because of tactical considerations. Yes, but also because I meant every word. I want to marry you, Eliza. Not in 3 weeks necessarily. We can push it back if you need time, but eventually, definitely. That's possibly the least romantic proposal in history. Probably. I'm not good at this. He ran a hand through his hair, a rare crack in his composure. I know how to negotiate contracts and destroy enemies and build empires. But this? Convincing you I'm serious when I just hijacked your entire life? I have no idea what I'm doing. The honesty disarmed her. Eliza sank into the nearest chair, her legs suddenly unable to support her. My mother is outside right now, with reporters. She's not going to let this go. I know. That's why I offered £10,000 for evidence. She can't produce any because there isn't any. But the offer itself suggests confidence, suggests I'm not worried about what anyone might find. She'll find another way to attack. Let her try. She's playing her cards too obviously now. People are already questioning why a mother would be so determined to destroy her daughter's prospects. He crouched beside her chair, bringing them eye to eye. But none of that matters if you don't want this. If you want out, say the word. I'll tell them it was a misunderstanding. I'll handle the fallout. And my reputation? Will recover, eventually, with my support. Eliza studied his face, the severe features, the intelligence in his eyes, the careful way he waited for her answer without pushing. 3 days ago, she'd been invisible. Now she was engaged to a duke, standing in the center of a scandal, with her mother plotting her destruction outside his door. It was insane, reckless, completely contrary to every careful plan she'd ever made. 3 weeks is too soon, she said finally. I need at least 6 to prepare, to understand what I'm getting into, to... 6 weeks. Done. Relief flickered across his face. So that's a yes? That's a, let's see if we can survive the next 6 weeks without killing each other. I'll take it. He stood, offering his hand. Now we need to deal with the immediate problem. Your mother isn't going to leave quietly. As if summoned by his words, Blackwood appeared in the doorway. Your Grace, Lady Harrow is refusing to depart. She's demanding an audience. Shall I have her forcibly removed? No, send her in. But station 2 footmen inside the room. I don't trust her not to become physical. Rowan, I'm not leaving you alone with her, not after last time. Lady Harrow swept in moments later, Beatrice trailing reluctantly behind. Her mother's face was a mask of barely controlled fury. You've made a terrible mistake, Your Grace, one you'll regret for the rest of your life. I doubt that. She's manipulated you, convinced you she's something she's not. But I know my daughter. She's deceitful, ambitious, willing to do anything. Stop. Eliza's voice cut through her mother's diatribe. Just stop. Lady Harrow's eyes narrowed. Don't you dare speak to me that way. Why not? You've spent the last 18 years telling me I'm worthless, that I'm an embarrassment, that the best I could hope for was to disappear quietly. Well, I'm done disappearing. You ungrateful, I'm not finished. Eliza stood, surprised by her own steadiness. You forged that letter. We both know it. And when your plan to discredit me failed, you came here to try to poison him against me directly. But here's what you didn't count on. He actually knows me. He's seen past the performance you demanded I maintain, past the invisibility you forced on me. And he chose me anyway. He doesn't know the real you. The sullen, difficult girl who questions everything and can't follow simple instructions. That is the real me, and I'm done apologizing for it. The words hung in the air. Lady Harrow's face went purple. You'll regret this. When he tires of your novelty, when he realizes what a mistake he's made, you'll come crawling back, and I won't be there. Good. I don't want you there. Eliza's voice shook but held. I don't want your criticism or your manipulation or your conditional love. I'm done trying to be small enough for your approval. You're making a choice you can't take back. I know. That's the point. Beatrice had been silent throughout, but now she stepped forward. Mother, perhaps we should go. This isn't accomplishing anything. Quiet, Beatrice. This doesn't concern you. Actually, it does. Beatrice's voice was surprisingly firm. Because I've spent 3 years watching you destroy Eliza for not fitting your vision of what a daughter should be, and I'm done being complicit. Lady Harrow whirled on her. You'll regret taking her side. Maybe, but at least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror. Beatrice met Eliza's eyes. I'm sorry for not saying something sooner, for letting this go on as long as it did. You're both insane, throwing away your futures for some misguided sense of, that's enough. Rowan's voice could have frozen fire. You're no longer welcome in my home, or anywhere near Eliza. If you attempt to contact her, spread more lies, or interfere in any way, I will make good on my earlier threat. And trust me, Lady Harrow, you do not want to discover what I'm capable of when properly motivated. For the first time, Lady Harrow looked genuinely afraid. She drew herself up, trying to reclaim her dignity. Come, Beatrice, we're leaving. No. Beatrice's voice was quiet but absolute. I'm staying, at least for now. I beg your pardon? I need to talk to Eliza. Alone. Please, Mother, just go. Lady Harrow's expression cycled through disbelief, rage, and something that might have been hurt. Then she turned on her heel and swept out, the door slamming behind her. The silence that followed felt fragile, like glass about to shatter. That was... Beatrice trailed off. I don't even have words. Overdue, Rowan supplied. I'll give you 2 privacy. I need to speak with Blackwood about security measures anyway. Your mother strikes me as the type to escalate when cornered. He squeezed Eliza's shoulder briefly before departing. The sisters stood facing each other, years of complicated history between them. You stood up to her, Beatrice said finally. I've never seen anyone do that. I was terrified the entire time. It didn't show. Beatrice moved to the window, looking out at the dispersing crowd. I told you she was building a narrative. I didn't realize she'd go this far. The forged letter? I think so. I can't prove it, but there were things in that letter, details only family would know, things Mother would have access to. Beatrice turned back. She's desperate, Eliza. Her entire identity is wrapped up in controlling us, in orchestrating perfect outcomes. You choosing your own path destroys that. What about you? Won't she punish you for staying? Probably, but I'm tired of being afraid. Beatrice's smile was sad. Watching you stand up to her just now, I realized I've spent 3 years being exactly what she wanted, and I'm miserable. At least you were yourself, even when it cost you everything. Being myself almost did cost me everything. But it didn't, because someone finally saw you for who you are and decided that was enough. Beatrice's voice cracked slightly. Do you know how rare that is? How lucky? It doesn't feel lucky. It feels terrifying. Those aren't mutually exclusive. They stood in companionable silence for a moment. Then Beatrice spoke again. I should warn you about something. There's another player in this you don't know about. Eliza's stomach dropped. What do you mean? Lord Marcus Ashford, Rowan's cousin. He's second in line for the dukedom, and he's been watching, calculating. If Rowan marries and has heirs, Marcus loses any chance at the title. You think he's involved in this? I think he's the kind of man who sees opportunities in chaos. And your engagement just created a lot of chaos. Beatrice hesitated. I overheard him talking to Mother. 3 days ago, at the Pemberton ball, he was asking about you. Very specific questions. What kind of questions? Your background, your habits, whether you had any secrets that might be useful. Mother brushed him off at the time, but I think she went back to him after Rowan made his intentions clear. I think they might be working together. The implications were staggering. We need to tell Rowan. I know, that's why I stayed. I couldn't live with myself if something happened because I kept quiet. Beatrice moved toward the door, then paused. Eliza, I really am sorry for all of it, for not being the sister you deserved. You're here now. That's what matters. After Beatrice left to find Rowan, Eliza sank back into her chair. Her mind raced, trying to process everything. An engagement, a forged letter, her mother's fury, and now a potential conspiracy involving Rowan's own family. This was supposed to be a simple courtship. How had it become a war? The door opened and Margaret rushed in, her face flushed. Miss Eliza, Your Grace, She stopped, flustered. I don't even know what to call you anymore. Despite everything, Eliza laughed. Eliza is fine, it's still my name. I came as soon as I heard. Are you all right? Is it true you're engaged? The entire household is in chaos. Your mother returned and started throwing things. Your father locked himself in his study. Breathe, Margaret. Yes, I'm engaged. No, I don't completely understand how it happened. Yes, everything is chaos. Margaret collapsed into a chair. This is insane. I'm aware. But also, Margaret's expression shifted to something like wonder. Also kind of brilliant? The way he shut down all the rumors by just announcing the engagement publicly? No room for speculation, no time for people to pick it apart. Just a fait accompli. It was tactical. It was romantic in a terrifying, high-stakes sort of way. Before Eliza could respond, Rowan returned with Beatrice. His expression was grim. Tell me exactly what you heard, word for word if you can remember. Beatrice recounted the conversation she'd overheard. As she spoke, Rowan's jaw tightened. Marcus, of course, I should have anticipated this. You think he's behind the forged letter? Eliza asked. Not alone, but he's definitely involved. This has his fingerprints all over it. Create chaos, let others do the dirty work, position himself to benefit from the fallout. Rowan began pacing. He's been pushing me to marry someone suitable for years, someone he could manipulate or control. You represent everything he doesn't want, an independent mind, genuine affection, a threat to his backup plan. So what do? We prove it, publicly, undeniably, and we do it before the wedding so there's no question about legitimacy. He stopped pacing, facing them. I need to trace that letter, find out who physically wrote it, who distributed it. If Marcus was involved, there will be evidence. He's clever, but not careful. How long will that take? Days, maybe a week. In the meantime, we go forward with the engagement as planned. Public appearances, announcements, all of it. We don't give anyone ammunition to suggest we're uncertain or hiding. That means facing society, Eliza said quietly. All the people who read that letter, and believed it. Yes. Are you ready for that? Was she? Ready to walk into ballrooms where people would whisper behind their fans? To smile through thinly veiled insults and outright hostility? No, she said honestly. But I'll do it anyway. Rowan's expression softened. You don't have to be ready. You just have to be stubborn. And from what I've seen, stubborn is your specialty. The next few days were brutal. Eliza moved into the townhouse, properly chaperoned by Margaret and an elderly cousin of Rowan's who served as official companion. The engagement was announced in all the papers. Gifts arrived from well-wishers, along with barely concealed criticism from those who thought the match beneath him. And everywhere she went, whispers followed. The worst was the Blackwood Tea, a supposedly friendly gathering of society matrons ostensibly to welcome Eliza into their ranks. In reality, it was an interrogation dressed in silk and served with scones. Lady Pemberton presided, her smiles sharp as knives. Miss Harrow, how delightful. We're all so curious about your whirlwind courtship. It's been quite eventful, Eliza said carefully. I imagine so. 3 days from meeting to engagement? Remarkable speed. The pause was deliberate. One might even say suspicious. One might, if one were inclined to see conspiracy in straightforward affection. A ripple of surprise went through the room. Society women weren't supposed to be direct. Of course, we've all read the letter, another woman, the Duchess of Waverley, said smoothly, the one detailing your strategy. Though I suppose with the engagement announced, it hardly matters now whether it was true. It wasn't true, it was forged. How convenient that you discovered that after it had already circulated. Eliza felt the walls closing in. Every woman in the room was watching her like a predator watching prey. Then a voice from the doorway cut through the tension. Ladies, how delightful. I see the knives are out already. Everyone turned. A woman stood in the entrance, older than Eliza, maybe 40, with silver threading through dark hair and eyes that missed nothing. She moved into the room with the kind of confidence that suggested she owned it. Duchess Thornton, Lady Pemberton said stiffly. How unexpected. Is it? I heard there was a tea for Rowan's fiancé. Naturally, I had to attend. She crossed directly to Eliza, extending her hand. Catherine Thornton. Rowan's godmother, though he pretends not to remember that when I'm inconvenient. Eliza stood, accepting the offered hand. It's a pleasure, Your Grace. Oh, we'll see about that. I'm notoriously difficult. Catherine took the empty chair beside Eliza, claiming it like a throne. Now, where were we? Ah, yes, you were all implying that dear Eliza here is some sort of scheming seductress. How very tedious. Duchess Thornton, we were merely being catty because a woman you deemed inferior has caught a prize you all wanted for your daughters. Let's not pretend this is about concern for Rowan. Catherine accepted a teacup from a flustered servant. I've known that boy since he was in short pants. Watched him survive his father's brutality and his mother's death. Watched him build an empire through sheer stubborn intelligence. And in all that time, I've never seen him smile the way he did when I visited yesterday, and he was telling me about Eliza's opinions on parliamentary reform. The room had gone very quiet. He's happy. Genuinely. Terrifyingly happy. And you're all trying to destroy that because it doesn't fit your narrative of how these things are supposed to work. Catherine turned to Eliza. My dear, these women will hate you regardless of what you do, so you might as well do exactly as you please. That's rather cynical advice, Duchess, Lady Pemberton said coldly. That's realistic advice from someone who's navigated these waters for 40 years. You want to be accepted here? Stop trying to please them. They'll respect strength, not supplication. Eliza found her voice. What if I don't have strength? Then fake it until you do. That's what we all do. Catherine's smile was sharp. Now, Lady Pemberton, I heard your daughter's engagement is already falling apart. Something about Lord Pemberton discovering gambling debts? How dreadfully embarrassing for you. The subject changed abruptly, the focus shifting away from Eliza. She sat in stunned silence while Catherine masterfully redirected the conversation, turning potential enemies against each other with surgical precision. When the tea finally ended, Catherine linked arms with Eliza as they departed. Thank you, Eliza said quietly. You didn't have to do that. Of course I did. Rowan asked me to. Said you were brilliant but untrained in social warfare, And would I please make sure they didn't eat you alive? Catherine patted her hand. Besides, I like you. You're real. These society sharks can smell performance from miles away, but genuine throws them off balance. I don't feel genuine. I feel terrified. Also acceptable. Fear and bravery aren't opposites, dear. They're partners. Catherine stopped at her carriage. A word of advice? Stop trying to prove you deserve him. You do. Anyone with sense can see it. The ones who can't aren't worth convincing. She departed in a cloud of silk and confidence, leaving Eliza standing on the sidewalk feeling slightly less alone. That night, Rowan found her in his library, surrounded by books and looking exhausted. How was the tea? Awful. Then your godmother arrived and it became bearable. Catherine has excellent timing. He settled into the chair across from her. I have news. We traced the letter. Eliza sat up straighter. And? It was commissioned by Marcus, paid for by your mother. The actual forger was a clerk they hired. He's already confessed in exchange for immunity. We have signed statements, receipts, everything. So we can prove it. We can destroy them, both of them. His expression was cold. I'm planning to release the evidence tomorrow. It will ruin your mother socially. Marcus will lose any credibility he had. They'll both be finished. Eliza should have felt triumphant. Instead, she felt hollow. My mother will never recover from this. She tried to destroy you first, multiple times. I know, but she's still my mother. Eliza stood, moving to the window. Is there another way? Something that stops them without completely annihilating her? You want mercy for someone who showed you none. I want to be better than her. If I use your power to crush her completely, how am I any different? Rowan was quiet for a long moment. Then he crossed to her, standing close enough that she could feel his warmth. You're different because you're asking the question. Because even after everything, you're still thinking about consequences beyond revenge. He touched her cheek gently. But understand, if we show mercy, they may see it as weakness. They may try again. Then we make it clear. One chance. If they accept the truth quietly, we don't release everything. But if they continue to fight, we hold nothing back. Your mother won't accept that. She's too proud. Maybe, but at least I'll know I tried. Eliza met his eyes. I don't want to start our marriage by becoming someone I'm not. Someone who uses power carelessly. He studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. All right, we offer terms. But Eliza, if they refuse, if they push back even slightly, I'm releasing everything. I won't let them hurt you again. Fair enough. The terms were delivered the next morning. Rowan's solicitors presented Lady Harrow and Marcus with the evidence. Documents, testimonies, receipts that proved their conspiracy beyond doubt. The deal was simple. They could quietly admit to their mistake, issue public apologies, and retreat from society for the season, or the evidence would be released and they would be ruined completely. Marcus accepted immediately. Self-preservation outweighed pride for him. Lady Harrow held out for 2 days. When she finally arrived at the townhouse, she looked diminished somehow, smaller, older. I want to speak to Eliza. Alone. Rowan looked at Eliza. She nodded. They met in the garden, neutral ground, witnesses at a distance, but not within earshot. You've won, her mother said without preamble. I hope you're satisfied. I'm not satisfied. I'm exhausted. I'm angry. And I'm sad that it had to come to this. Don't pretend you didn't want this. You've been working against me from the beginning. No, I was just trying to survive you. There's a difference. Lady Harrow flinched. I only ever wanted what was best for this family. You wanted control. You wanted perfect daughters who reflected well on you. And when I couldn't be that, you decided I was worthless. Eliza's voice shook. Do you know what that does to a child? Being told every day that you're an embarrassment? That you'd be better off invisible? I was preparing you for reality. The world is harsh to women who don't fit expectations. So you decided to be harsh first? To break me before the world could? Eliza shook her head. That's not protection. That's cruelty dressed up as love. I never... Lady Harrow stopped, her composure cracking. I never meant to hurt you. I didn't understand you. You were so different from me, from your sisters. I didn't know what to do with you. You could have tried accepting me. The silence stretched between them. When Lady Harrow finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. I don't know if I can do what you're asking. Apologize publicly. Admit I was wrong. Then the evidence gets released tomorrow, and you'll lose everything. I've already lost everything. My husband won't speak to me. Cecilia is afraid of me. Beatrice has sided with you. Even the servants look at me with contempt. You did that, not me. Every consequence you're facing is the direct result of your choices. Lady Harrow's hands were shaking. If I do this, if I apologize, will you ever forgive me? Eliza hadn't expected the question. She thought about it honestly. I don't know. Maybe someday, but not today. Not next week. Forgiveness isn't something you earn with one apology. It's built over time through changed behavior and consistent effort. So there's a chance. There's a chance. But only if you actually change. If you go back to being who you were, if you try to manipulate or control again, we're done. Permanently. Her mother nodded slowly. I'll issue the apology. Tomorrow. At the morning social hour where everyone will see it. And the forged letter? You'll admit your part? Yes. Though it will cost me dearly. It should. What you did was unconscionable. Lady Harrow stood, drawing herself up with what little dignity remained. For what it's worth, Eliza, the Duke does seem to genuinely care for you. I still don't understand it, but I can see it's real. That's something, I suppose. Her mother left without another word. Eliza stood in the garden, feeling emptied out, wrung dry of emotion. Rowan appeared at her side. How do you feel? Like I just survived something awful and don't have the energy to celebrate. That's fair. He pulled her close, and she let herself lean into his strength. She'll issue the apology tomorrow. Marcus already did, very quietly. By next week, the scandal will be old news. And then? And then we plan a wedding. A real one, not just a tactical maneuver. Speaking of which, Eliza pulled back slightly. You never actually proposed. Not properly. I was getting to that. He reached into his pocket, producing a small velvet box. I had this made after the Pemberton ball, before all the chaos. Inside was a ring, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds, simple but stunning. Eliza Harrow, you're stubborn, brilliant, infuriatingly honest, and the only person I've met in a decade who treats me like a human being instead of a title. Will you marry me? Not because of tactics or strategy, but because I'm fairly certain I'll be miserable without you. She laughed despite herself. That's possibly the second least romantic proposal in history. I'm consistent, if nothing else. Yes. The answer is yes. He slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. The apology came the next day, at Lady Ashworth's garden party, the most well-attended event of the season. Lady Harrow stood before society's elite and admitted her role in the forged letter, admitted to conspiring with Marcus, admitted to allowing jealousy and fear to override maternal love. The silence that followed was absolute. Then the Duchess, Catherine Thornton, began applauding. Slowly, deliberately, others joined in. Not because they forgave Lady Harrow, most wouldn't, but because they respected the courage it took to admit such failure publicly. Eliza watched from Rowan's side, her hand in his. It wasn't triumph she felt, more like closure, the beginning of something new built on the ashes of something poisonous. Ready to face them? Rowan murmured. No, but let's do it anyway. They descended into the party, and this time, when people turned to look at them, the whispers were different. She stood up to Lady Harrow. Can you imagine? The Duke looks happy, really happy. Maybe we were wrong about her. Not everyone. Some still sneered, still judged, but enough had shifted that Eliza felt the change. She wasn't invisible anymore. Wasn't the girl cowering behind pillars. She was the woman who'd survived her mother's cruelty, a forged scandal, and society's judgment. The woman who'd chosen her own path and fought for it. The woman who would be a duchess. Thomas Wainwright appeared at her elbow, grinning. Well, well, look at you. From hiding behind columns to commanding the garden in 3 weeks. Impressive. I had help. You had courage. The rest was just logistics. He raised his glass. To the most interesting person at the Pemberton ball. May you never let them make you boring. I'll drink to that, Rowan said, and they all did. As the afternoon sun stretched across the garden, Eliza realized something. She'd spent 18 years believing she was invisible because she was unworthy. But the truth was simpler and sadder. She'd been invisible because someone with power had decided she should be. And now she had power too. Not from a title or a ring, though those helped, but from finally understanding her worth. The girl who'd been erased was erased no more. The girl who'd been erased was erased no more. But being seen, Eliza discovered over the following weeks, came with its own complications. The wedding preparations consumed London society like wildfire. Every detail was dissected, analyzed, judged. The dress, who was making it, the flowers, imported or local, the guest list, who'd been included, who'd been pointedly excluded. Eliza sat in yet another fitting at Madame Belrose's establishment, trying not to move while pins were adjusted and fabric draped. Margaret stood nearby, eyes watering with emotion every time she looked at the gown taking shape. "You look like a princess," she whispered. "I look like I'm being packaged for display," Eliza muttered back. Madame Belrose laughed. "Marriage to a duke is display, chérie, but we make you so beautiful that you control the narrative, no?" The door burst open and Beatrice rushed in, waving a newspaper. "Have you seen this? I've been standing here for 2 hours being stabbed with pins. I haven't seen anything." "Lady Whitmore wrote a piece about you, in the society pages." Beatrice's expression was complicated. "You should read it." Eliza carefully stepped down from the platform, mindful of the pins. She took the paper and read. The transformation of Miss Eliza Harrow, soon to be the Duchess of Thornhaven, has been nothing short of remarkable. Once dismissed as the plain daughter, the invisible sister, she has emerged as perhaps the most fascinating woman in London. Not through beauty, though she carries herself with increasing grace, but through something far more valuable, authentic character. This author attended a charity luncheon yesterday where the future Duchess spoke on agricultural reform and workers' rights with a passion and intelligence that left the assembled ladies stunned into silence. She didn't perform for us. She didn't calculate her words for maximum charm. She simply spoke, with conviction and knowledge and the kind of honesty that makes most society conversation seem hollow by comparison. The Duke of Thornhaven, watching from across the room, looked like a man who'd discovered something precious others had discarded. And perhaps he had. Eliza lowered the paper, her hands trembling slightly. That's actually nice. More than nice, Lady Whitmore shapes opinion. If she's decided you're fascinating, half of London will follow. Beatrice hesitated. The other half will hate you more. Fascination and jealousy are close neighbors. I'm aware. There's more. Father wants to see you. He sent a note this morning. Eliza hadn't spoken to Lord Harrow since the night Rowan announced their engagement. The coward who'd hidden in his club while his wife destroyed their daughter had nothing to say that Eliza wanted to hear. Tell him I'm busy. Eliza, I mean it. He chose his comfort over my safety, multiple times. I don't owe him an audience? Margaret touched her shoulder gently. Maybe hear what he has to say. You don't have to forgive him, but closure might help. Closure is overrated. But that afternoon, when the fitting was finally done and Eliza returned to Rowan's townhouse, she found her father waiting in the drawing room. He looked older than she remembered, diminished somehow. You shouldn't be here, she said from the doorway. I know, but I needed to... He stopped, seeming to struggle with words. I needed to apologize. Properly. Bit late for that. I know that too. He gestured to the chairs. Please, 5 minutes. Against her better judgment, Eliza sat. Lord Harrow took the chair opposite, looking everywhere but at her face. Your mother and I married young. Too young. She was beautiful, ambitious, determined. I was weak, directionless, happy to let someone else make decisions. It worked for a while. Then you children came, and she became focused on securing your futures. And I let her. Let her control everything because it was easier than fighting. That's not an excuse. No. It's an explanation, not the same thing. He finally met her eyes. When you were born, you looked just like my mother. Same serious expression, same watchful eyes. I was delighted. But your mother saw it as a flaw. You weren't the golden beauty she'd planned for. And over the years, as you grew more like my mother in temperament too, curious, questioning, independent, she saw you as a threat to her vision of a perfect family. So she tried to erase me. Yes, and I let her, because confronting her meant confronting my own weakness, meant admitting I'd let the woman I loved become someone cruel. His voice cracked. I'm sorry, Eliza, for every time I chose peace over protecting you, for every time I walked away when I should have stood firm, for being the father you deserved better than. The apology sat between them, inadequate, too late, but genuine. I don't forgive you, Eliza said finally. Not yet. Maybe not ever, but I appreciate you saying it. That's more than I deserve. He stood, preparing to leave. One more thing. Your mother asked me to give you this, said you'd understand what it meant. He placed a small box on the table. Inside was a cameo brooch, delicate, old, beautiful. Eliza recognized it immediately. Her grandmother's. The one thing her mother had treasured above all else. She said to tell you, she's trying, actually trying. For the first time in years, she's questioning her choices instead of justifying them. It's not much, but it's something. After he left, Eliza sat holding the brooch, feeling emotions too complicated to name. Anger, sadness, a tiny sliver of hope. Margaret found her there an hour later. You all right? No, but I will be. The week before the wedding brought a different crisis. Eliza was reviewing seating arrangements with Rowan when Blackwood rushed in, his usual composure shattered. Your Grace, there's a situation. Lord Marcus has been found dead. The room went silent. Rowan's expression turned to ice. When? How? This morning, in his rooms. The authorities are calling it suicide. He left a note confessing to the forged letter, apologizing for the shame he brought to the family name. Blackwood hesitated. But Your Grace, I knew Marcus. He was many things, but suicidal wasn't one of them. He would have run before taking his own life. You think he was murdered? I think the timing is convenient. The wedding in 5 days, the scandal finally dying down, and suddenly the one person who could still cause problems is dead. Eliza's stomach turned. Who would benefit from his death? Several people. Anyone who wanted to ensure the succession was clear. Anyone who feared what else Marcus might reveal if pressured. Rowan stood, already moving toward the door. I need to see the body. Speak to the authorities. Eliza, I'm coming with you. I'm coming with you. If someone killed him to clear your path, I need to know. I won't start this marriage with a murder hanging over us. Marcus's rooms were chaos. Authorities everywhere, servants being questioned, the coroner examining the body. Rowan's title got them immediate access. The scene was almost too perfect. Marcus slumped over his desk, empty laudanum bottle nearby, confession letter prominently displayed. But something felt wrong. The handwriting, Eliza said quietly, studying the confession. It's similar to Marcus's, but not quite right. See how the S curves differently? And he always dotted his I's with a slash, not a dot. Rowan looked at her sharply. How do you know that? He sent me a threatening letter 2 weeks ago. Anonymous, but I recognized the handwriting from social correspondence. I kept it. She pulled the folded paper from her reticule. Compare them. The coroner did, his expression shifting from certainty to doubt. You're right. These aren't written by the same hand. So, someone forged a suicide note, Rowan said, which means murder. The investigation exploded from there. Within hours, evidence emerged that Marcus had been drugged first, forced to drink laudanum mixed with wine. The supposed suicide was actually careful murder, staged to look like guilt-driven self-destruction. But who? The answer came from an unexpected source. One of Marcus's servants, a young man named Peter, approached them that evening. I need to tell you something, but if I do, I need protection. They'll kill me too. Who are they? Rowan demanded. Lord Weatherby and his associates. They approached Lord Marcus 3 months ago with a proposition. Help them discredit you, Your Grace, and they'd support his claim to the dukedom if anything happened to you. Marcus refused at first, but after the forged letter scandal broke and he lost credibility, he got desperate. Started threatening to expose their whole operation if they didn't help him. What operation? They've been manipulating inheritances, arranging accidents for inconvenient heirs. Marcus stumbled onto it while researching how to undermine your engagement. When he threatened to go public, they killed him and made it look like suicide. The scope of the conspiracy was staggering. Rowan moved immediately, calling in authorities he trusted, providing evidence, setting a trap. The arrest came 3 days before the wedding. Lord Weatherby and 6 others taken into custody for conspiracy, murder, and fraud. The scandal made Marcus's forged letter look like amateur hour, but the timing was devastating. "We should postpone," Eliza said that night, sitting with Rowan in his library. "The wedding, with everything that's happened, with a murder investigation ongoing. No. Rowan, no." He took her hands, his grip firm. "These people have tried to destroy us from the beginning. First your mother, then Marcus. Now this conspiracy. If we delay, we give them time to regroup, to find new angles of attack. We move forward, we marry as planned, and we show everyone that we're not afraid." "I am afraid." "So am I." The admission surprised her. "I'm terrified that something will happen to you, that one of these attempts will succeed, that I'll lose you before we even begin. Then maybe we should run? Hide? That's not who you are, Eliza. You stood up to your mother in front of half of London. You traced handwriting that cracked a murder case. You've been brave when you had every reason to retreat. Don't stop now." She wanted to argue, wanted to find the logical reasons to delay, to protect themselves. But he was right. Running now would undo everything they'd fought for. 5 days, she said. "We have 5 days to make sure no one else tries to kill anyone. Then we'd better get to work." The wedding day arrived wrapped in unseasonable sunshine and the kind of tension that made Eliza's hands shake while Margaret laced her into the gown. "Breathe," Margaret whispered. "Just breathe." "What if someone objects? What if there's another scandal, another revelation? Then you handle it, like you've handled everything else." Margaret stepped back, eyes watering again. "You look beautiful, truly beautiful." The gown was a masterpiece. Ivory silk with delicate embroidery, simple enough to be elegant, detailed enough to be memorable. Madame Belrose had outdone herself. Beatrice entered, already dressed in her bridesmaid gown. She stopped short. "Oh, Eliza, is it too much? Not enough? Should we—" "It's perfect. You're perfect." Beatrice's voice wavered. "I'm so sorry I wasn't a better sister, that I let jealousy blind me for so long. You're here now, that's what matters." The church was packed. Everyone who mattered in London society had come, some to celebrate, some to judge, some just to witness whatever drama might unfold. Lord Harrow waited to walk her down the aisle. He looked nervous. "Ready?" "No, but we're doing this anyway." The doors opened. Music swelled, and Eliza walked into her future. The church was a blur of faces, some friendly, some hostile, most merely curious. But at the end of the aisle, Rowan stood waiting. His expression when he saw her was everything: wonder, pride, something that might have been relief. The ceremony passed in a haze. Words spoken, vows exchanged, the ring sliding onto her finger with a finality that was both terrifying and right. "I now pronounce you husband and wife." Rowan kissed her, gentle, claiming, a promise sealed. When they turned to face the crowd, Eliza saw her mother standing in the back, tears streaming down her face. Not tears of joy, tears of something more complicated, regret, maybe, or loss. The acknowledgement that her daughter had moved beyond her reach into a life she couldn't control. The reception was held at Thornhaven Estate, transformed for the occasion into something magical. Gardens lit with lanterns, tables laden with food, music floating through the air. Duchess Catherine Thornton cornered Eliza during the first waltz. "Surviving so far? Barely." "Good. Marriage should challenge you. Anyone can marry someone easy. It takes courage to marry someone who'll push you to be better." She glanced toward Rowan, dancing with Cecilia. "He'll push you, question you, demand honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Can you handle that?" "I don't know, but I'm going to try." "That's all anyone can do." Catherine squeezed her hand. "You've done something remarkable, you know. Not just marrying a duke. Any vapid beauty can do that. You've changed the narrative of what powerful men should value. Intelligence over decoration, substance over performance. Half the mothers in London are furious that their perfectly trained daughters lost to a girl who just existed honestly. They'll find new targets. Probably. But you've opened a door. Other women will walk through it now. That's not nothing. As the evening wore on, Eliza found herself standing at the edge of the gardens, watching the celebration. Rowan appeared at her side. Hiding from your own wedding? Catching my breath. This is overwhelming. We can leave. Just disappear upstairs. Let them celebrate without us. Is that allowed? I'm a duke. I make my own rules. He offered his hand. What do you say? Escape with me? They slipped away while no one was watching, climbing the stairs to rooms that were now theirs. The bedroom was quiet, candlelit, blessedly peaceful. I have something for you, Rowan said, producing a leather folder. Your wedding present. Inside were property deeds, multiple properties. I don't understand. The townhouse in London is yours, completely. In your name only, same with the cottage in Cornwall and the estate in Scotland. They can't be touched by anyone, not me, not creditors, not future family drama. They're yours. Eliza's throat tightened. Why? Because I watched my mother have nothing of her own. Watched her become dependent, powerless, trapped. I won't do that to you. These properties generate income, enough that you could leave tomorrow if you wanted and live comfortably for the rest of your life. You're giving me an escape route on our wedding day. I'm giving you freedom. There's a difference. He cupped her face. I don't want you to stay because you have no choice. I want you to stay because you choose to, every single day. The gesture was so unexpected, so perfectly him, that Eliza couldn't speak. She kissed him instead, deep, grateful, filled with emotions she didn't have words for. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Rowan smiled. I should probably mention there's one more thing. More property? Better. Remember how you said you wanted to travel? See the world? Eventually, yes. Why? I've arranged for us to spend 6 months abroad after the season ends. Italy, Greece, Egypt, everywhere you wanted to go. We'll catalog agricultural practices, visit ancient libraries, do whatever you want. No schedule, no obligations. 6 months? What about your business, your estates? Can survive without me. You can't learn about the world from books alone. You need to live it. His expression softened. I want to watch you discover things. Want to see your face when you walk through the pyramids or stand in the Parthenon. I want to experience it all through your eyes. Eliza felt tears building. You're serious? Completely. We leave in September. She launched herself at him, kissing him again, laughing and crying at the same time. He caught her easily, holding her close. I love you, she said against his mouth. I don't think I've actually said that yet. You haven't, but I knew anyway. How? Because you chose me when walking away would have been safer. Because you fought for us when giving up would have been easier. Because you're here, in my arms, when you could have been anywhere else. He kissed her forehead. I love you too. Your stubbornness, your intelligence, your absolute refusal to be anything other than yourself. All of it. They stayed like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other, the celebration continuing distantly below. A knock at the door interrupted. Beatrice's voice came through. I hate to disturb, but there's a situation. Mother's asking to speak with you both. Says it's important. Eliza and Rowan exchanged glances. They descended to find Lady Harrow in one of the smaller drawing rooms, looking nervous and determined in equal measure. I wanted to tell you myself, she said without preamble, before you heard it from someone else. I'm leaving London, going to live with my sister in Bath for at least a year, maybe longer. Mother, Beatrice started, I need to. I've spent 30 years building a life based on control and appearance, and in the process, I nearly destroyed my own daughter. I need time away from this world to figure out who I am without it. She looked at Eliza. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I wanted you to know I'm trying, actually trying to change. What about father, Cecilia? Your father and I are separating, not permanently, we'll maintain appearances, but we need distance. And Cecilia is coming with me. She needs to learn that there's more to life than advantageous marriages and social standing. Cecilia stepped forward from the corner where she'd been standing. I agreed to go. After watching you stand up for yourself, watching you build a real partnership instead of a transaction, I realized I don't want what Mother wanted for me. I want something real. Lord Pemberton? Eliza asked quietly. We ended it. Mutual decision. He's a nice man, but we had nothing in common beyond matching well on paper. Cecilia smiled slightly. Turns out that's not enough. Lady Harrow straightened. I won't ask for your forgiveness today, but perhaps in time, if I prove I've changed, we might build something better than what we had. Something honest. Perhaps, Eliza agreed. But that's years away, and it depends entirely on your actions, not your words. I understand. Her mother moved toward the door, then paused. You were right, you know. What you said about me choosing control over love. It's taken me losing nearly everything to see it. I hope you never make that mistake. After they left, Rowan pulled Eliza close. How do you feel? Like maybe the story isn't over, just changing chapters. She leaned into him. Can we go back upstairs now? I'm done with family drama for the day. Gladly. The celebration continued late into the night, but Eliza and Rowan stayed sequestered in their rooms, building their own private celebration. Learning each other, laughing, making promises that had nothing to do with duty or expectation and everything to do with choice. The next morning, Eliza woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and Rowan's arm heavy across her waist. She lay there for a moment, cataloging the changes. She was a duchess now, the Duchess of Thornhaven. The woman who'd been invisible was now one of the most visible people in England, but more than that, she was chosen, valued. Loved not despite her differences, but because of them. The girl who'd spent 18 years being told she was worthless had proven everyone wrong. Not by changing herself, but by refusing to. Rowan stirred, pulling her closer. Morning? Morning. Regrets? Ask me again in 50 years. He laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest. Fair enough. They stayed in bed far longer than was proper, talking about everything and nothing. About the trip they'd take, the life they'd build, the changes they wanted to make to outdated social expectations. I want to do something with my position, Eliza said. Use it for more than just attending parties and looking decorative. Such as? Education. For girls especially. Not just accomplishments, real education. Mathematics, science, philosophy. Things that prepare them to think, not just marry well. The society matrons will hate it. I know, she grinned. That's half the appeal. You're going to be trouble. You knew that when you married me. I did. It's why I married you. A knock interrupted them. Margaret's voice came through. Your Graces, I apologize, but there are visitors, rather insistent ones. They dressed quickly and descended to find Thomas Wainwright in the drawing room, accompanied by a woman Eliza didn't recognize. Forgive the intrusion, Thomas said, grinning, but I wanted to introduce you to my sister, Catherine. She's been dying to meet the woman who caught the Duke everyone thought uncatchable. The woman, not to be confused with Duchess Catherine Thornton, laughed. Don't listen to him. I'm actually here because I run a school for girls outside London. When I heard about your interest in education reform, I had to meet you. They talked for 2 hours about curriculum, funding, societal resistance. Catherine Wainwright was brilliant, passionate, exactly the kind of ally Eliza needed. We could do remarkable things together, Catherine said finally. If you're serious about this. I'm serious. Even knowing the tone will crucify you for it, for suggesting women need more than dancing and needlework, especially knowing that. Eliza looked at Rowan, who nodded encouragement. I spent 18 years being told my intelligence was a flaw. I'm done pretending that's true. If I can help even one girl avoid that, it's worth whatever criticism comes. Then we have work to do. Catherine stood, already planning. I'll send you my proposals next week. Fair warning, they're ambitious. Good. I'm tired of small goals. After they left, Rowan pulled Eliza into his arms. You're really going to do this. Challenge the entire social structure of female education. Is that a problem? It's perfect. You're perfect. He kissed her thoroughly. Though I should warn you, taking on the establishment means making enemies. I've already made enemies just by existing, Might as well make them for something worthwhile. The months that followed were a whirlwind. Eliza dove into education reform with the same fierce intelligence she'd once hidden. She visited schools, interviewed teachers, fought for funding. She gave speeches that made conservative society members clutch their pearls and progressive ones stand and applaud. She became exactly what her mother had feared: visible, vocal, impossible to ignore. But she also became something her mother had never imagined: happy. The invitations poured in now, not because she was decorative or well-connected, but because she was interesting. Because people wanted to hear what she thought, wanted to debate ideas with someone who actually had them. In drawing rooms across London, young women started asking questions their mothers couldn't answer, started reading books beyond romance novels, started imagining futures that didn't revolve entirely around marriage. The shift was slow, but undeniable. And Eliza stood at the center of it, no longer invisible, no longer erased. One afternoon, 9 months after the wedding, she stood in the library at Thornhaven Estate, the same library where she'd hidden during her first visit. But she wasn't hiding now. She was working, surrounded by papers and proposals, building something that mattered. Rowan found her there as the sun set. "You're going to work yourself to exhaustion." "Probably, but it's worth it." She gestured to the correspondence covering the desk. 3 more schools want to implement our curriculum. 2 members of parliament are considering legislation for mandatory female education. It's actually happening, Rowan. We're actually changing things. You're changing things. I'm just providing funding and intimidating anyone who objects too loudly. Don't minimize your part. None of this would work without your support. He pulled her to her feet, wrapping her in his arms. I have something to tell you. The investigation into Weatherby's conspiracy concluded today. All 6 conspirators convicted. They'll hang next month. Eliza shuddered. I should feel triumphant. Instead, I just feel tired. That's because you're human. Revenge doesn't actually feel as good as people think it will. No, but justice feels necessary. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the sun paint the grounds gold. Do you ever regret it? Eliza asked quietly. Choosing me? Your life would be so much simpler if you'd married someone conventional. Simpler, yes. Better. No. He tilted her face up. You've given me purpose beyond just managing wealth and avoiding society. You've given me partnership, challenge, someone who makes me think and laugh and want to be better. That's worth any amount of complication. Even when I'm causing scandals by suggesting women deserve real education? Especially then. Watching you fight for what you believe in, it's the most attractive thing I've ever seen. She kissed him, pouring everything she felt into it. When they broke apart, both breathless, Rowan smiled. Ready for Italy next month? More than ready, though I'm bringing work with me. I wouldn't expect anything else. That night, lying in bed while Rowan slept beside her, Eliza thought about the girl she'd been a year ago, the one who'd hidden behind pillars and expected nothing, who'd believed invisibility was the best she could hope for. That girl was gone, not erased, transformed, into someone who knew her worth, who fought for what mattered, who refused to be small for anyone's comfort. The journey from invisible to unstoppable hadn't been smooth. It had been brutal, terrifying, filled with moments where giving up seemed easier than pushing forward. But she'd survived, more than survived. She'd won, not because a duke had chosen her, though that helped, but because she'd chosen herself. Finally, definitively, without apology. In the morning, there would be more work, more fights to pick, more conventions to challenge, more people determined to put her back in the box she'd escaped. But Eliza wasn't afraid anymore. She'd spent 18 years being told she was nothing. She'd spent the last year proving that was a lie. And she was just getting started. The woman no one wanted had become the woman everyone had to reckon with. The invisible daughter had transformed into a duchess who commanded rooms simply by entering them. The girl who'd been erased had written herself back into the story, as the hero this time, not the footnote. And in a world that had tried so hard to make her disappear, that was the greatest victory of all.